hope you all will feel like you walk away with something today as we go through this together. So, 1970, November 14th, one of the greatest tragedies probably ever in collegiate sports, especially in college football, took place when a plane carrying the entire Marshall football team, almost the entire coaching staff, other administrative staff, and of course crew members, crashed in the hills of West Virginia. No survivors whatsoever. As you can imagine, a devastating event for that college, for that community, for the entire state of West Virginia. So fast forward to 1971, and Marshall made the bold decision to try and field another football team, in spite of what just happened the year before. Now, their first problem they had to overcome was you can't, at that time with the NCAA, you can't allow freshmen to play. It's not like today where things are different. So they had to get a waiver from the NCAA to even allow freshmen to be a part of the team and play, which they did. And so they were able to field basically an entire team made up of freshmen with no experience whatsoever. So you can imagine the challenges that that team was going to deal with that year. And you got a new coach, Coach Jack Lingle, coming in after this tragic situation with a bunch of freshmen about to play football for the first time as college players. He's got quite a challenge on his hand as a leader. So I want to show you a clip from the movie called We Are Marshall. If you've never seen the movie, it's a great movie. Now, Matthew McConaughey plays Coach Jack Lingle. I don't know how accurate a representation he is on that. All right, for those of you who know that reference. But this speech he gives here is an accurate representation of what Coach Lingle did the morning before their first game, starting back after the tragedy at the beginning of the season in 1971. So I just want to show you this clip, just a couple of minutes. Listen to what he has to say, but more importantly, look at where he is and what he's trying to do to his team. The challenge he's trying to issue them, and as a leader in a very unique situation, trying to give them something more than just a game to play for.
For those of you who may not know, this is the final resting place for 6 members of the 1970 Thundering Herd. The plane crash that took their lives was so severe, so absolute, that their bodies were unable to be identified. So they were buried here, together. 6 players, 6 teammates, 6 sons of Marshall. This is our past, gentlemen. This is where we have been. This is how we got here. This is who we are today. I want to talk about our opponent this afternoon. They're bigger, faster, stronger, more experienced, and on paper, they're just better. And they know it too. But I want to tell you something that they don't know. They don't know your heart. I do. I've seen it. You have shown it to me. You have shown this coaching staff, your teammates. You have shown yourselves just exactly who you are in here. When you take that field today, you've got to lay that heart on the line. From the soles of your feet, with every ounce of blood you've got in your body, lay it on the line until the final whistle blows. And if you do that, we cannot lose.
Now, Coach Lingle knew what they were up against, as he said. Bigger, stronger, faster, just better. Apparently that's probably how the Falcons feel every Sunday. They get ready to take the field as well. I'm beginning to believe anyway. So he knew he was up against it. And so, as all good, effective, quality leaders do, he wanted to try to find a way to get more out of them than probably what they even expected they could do themselves. Somehow to raise their level of performance, to go beyond just playing a game. You know, they're going to go out on the field, they're going to play 60 minutes. The goal is, of course, to score more points than the other team, which probably wasn't going to happen. And by the way, it didn't happen. But he knew that he needed to give them something more, a greater purpose to play for, So he takes them to the site that you saw, the 6 bodies that were buried there, kind of a memorial to the crash itself, but specifically to those 6 bodies that were not able to be identified. And basically the message was, this is what you represent. This is what you're playing for. You're not just playing a game today, gentlemen. You're going out and playing for the University of Marshall. You're going out and playing for those that lost their life in this plane crash, the sons of Marshall, as he described them. What he was doing is what good leaders do. He was trying to attach a purpose, a significance to them that would raise their level of performance and give them something more to play for. And that's exactly what he did during that game and throughout the entire season. Again, I highly recommend watching the movie. There's some good leadership lessons in there. But for us, it's a reminder as we talk about purpose, and that effective leaders create purpose for their people. Effective leaders create purpose for their people. And that's exactly what I want to talk about here in just the next few moments. I love this quote. I have no idea who wrote it or said it. But without purpose, that is bigger than yourself. You are more likely to serve only yourself. And that's so true. You know, in general, our natural inclination oftentimes is to look inward, what we call an inward mindset, and to look at ourselves only. And so part of our job as leaders in our organization or in our area of influence, whether it's a unit, a team, an entire department, whatever that may be, is to help people see outside themselves, to give them a greater meaning and attach a greater purpose to what it is they do, whatever that job is, day in and day out in your organization. You know, we just heard about culture a few minutes ago, which is so important because culture and the health of a culture should be what's primarily important to us as leaders. You know, we can fix things and we can put out fires like we do a lot of times, it seems like, in our jobs, and we can change policies and procedures, and we can have accountability and discipline and things like that. All that's important. But if we don't ever address the culture and work toward creating a healthy culture in an organization, we're never going to get where we can be. We're never going to rise to the level of productivity and performance that we have the potential of being at. And so ultimately, that should be our primary concern. And let me tell you, one of the greatest ways that we create a healthy culture in an organization is by adding value to our people, by making them feel valued, by making them sense that they're part of an important team, that they're an important part of that team, and that they're playing for something more than just a 60-minute game like we were talking about. And so our job day in and day out is to do everything we can to attach purpose and value to the people that we have the blessed opportunity to lead in whatever our role may be. Again, that may be an entire department, it may be a unit, it may be a shift, it may be a night, day, whatever that may be. If we are in a leadership position where we have the ability to influence others, one of the greatest ways we need to utilize that influence is by adding value to our people through giving them purpose, connecting purpose to our people. Now, Simon Sinek, one of my favorite authors, and by the way, I'm a big believer, leaders are readers. And if you've never read this book before, it's a great one to start with. He talks about the why. It starts with why, name of the book. All right, and the whole point of the why is, what is your why? And why is another word, I think, for purpose, right? What is your why? What is my why? What is my why as a man of faith? What is my why as a husband and as a father and as a leader, hopefully, in my organization? And he talks about the importance of being able to understand that and to basically navigate through your life and through your job and through whatever you're doing, being driven by your why, by your purpose, why you exist, why you do what you do. And so for us as leaders in an organization, we have the opportunity and responsibility to help guide our employees and our folks that we work with and lead and serve as leaders in helping them see and understand their why and helping point them in a direction that helps them understand their purpose and what it is that they need to be striving for and looking for. So what I want to talk about in the next couple minutes is this. How do we connect our people to purpose? We understand the value of it. We understand the importance of it. This is nothing new. I heard that earlier today. I think Frank said it. A lot of what you hear today is not something you're going to go, wow, I've never heard that before. But it's always worth emphasizing, and I can't think of anything more important that we get a chance to do than add value and purpose to our people. What an awesome opportunity that is. And it's something that should be a part of our daily thought process, a part of our why and what we're doing every day that we do what we do. So with that, the first part of that, in creating a purpose for our people, is actually establishing a purpose. Or let me put it this way, creating a mission that matters. We must first create for our people a mission that matters. Now, we can say purpose, we can say why, but in our world, especially in public safety, we like that term mission. We like to be, we have a mission statement. A lot of you have mission statements at your departments. I promise you that unless you're emphasizing it, most of your officers probably don't even know what it is. And it's probably really long. I know it used to be in Alpharetta years ago, our officers learned the mission statement one time and one time only, when they went through the promotional process and knew they were going to be asked about it. And that was it. So oftentimes, we miss the opportunity to be mission intentional, to be mission minded, to help create that why and that purpose for people. I remember when I came back to Alpharetta my second time in 2017 as chief, my first command staff meeting, and I was fortunate because I knew I was walking into a great situation. I'm one of those Frank talked about earlier. I think it was 17%. I love my job, man. I got the best job in the world. I'm so blessed and so fortunate, and part of that is because of the people that work there. I mean, I got a phenomenal team. So I knew, having been there before, a lot of the team members that I was going to be working with coming back as chief. And so I knew I was good with that. But I also knew there was some morale issues, there were some culture issues we were going to have to work on. And I remember my first command staff meeting with our staff, we were talking, and one of the captains at the time, who's now a major with us, he made such a great, astute observation. He says, we got all these talented people, and they all want to do something great. They believe in the process and believe in the importance of public safety. But it's like they're on this ship, on this boat that's just floating aimlessly with no direction. And I never forgot that. I remember that day going, okay, I just realized what job number one's going to be for me. I've got to give them a direction. I've got to give them something to point them toward. I've got to give them a beacon, if you will, to get the ship going in the right direction, get everybody on board, and get them to be a part of that. And that's part of what our job should be every day that we come to work. We are continuing to get the boat going in the right direction. And so we do that by being intentional and being mission-minded, by always looking at the why, looking at that purpose, and helping our people get on board with that. So whether you be a CEO of a department or organization, or you're a night shift sergeant, you can create a mission, you can create a why, a purpose for your team, and get everybody on board going in the same direction. If you don't have one at all, it's a great chance to start some team building. Get your team together and say, we need to establish why we are here. What is our purpose? What is our why? Let's work on that together as a team, creating that buy-in we talked about, creating that healthy culture we talked about, and let's work on establishing that. If you have a good one already, then are you utilizing that? Are you using that as an opportunity to get people moving in the same direction and to, again, create that purpose which adds value to your people and to your organization? So first and foremost, you've got to create a mission that matters, something that's easy to hang their hat on, that's achievable, and something everybody can work toward, right? Once we get there, then we've got to connect our people with that mission, with that purpose, with that why. We've established it, we put it into place, and now we've got to connect our people with that. And that's key. And it doesn't matter what their role is. Take a police department. It could be a night patrol officer. It could be a detective. It could be a major. It could be a records clerk, whatever it is. Our job as the leaders is to help connect their role with the purpose and the mission of the organization. And that's vital. Listen, in this day and age, again, speaking specifically to law enforcement just for a moment, with all the noise and all the negativity and things like that are going on, we really need to be sure and keep reminding them of how valuable they are, and that what they do matters. No matter what they may be hearing or seeing on the news or anywhere else, they matter. This profession matters. It's a noble profession of people that are going out and serving their community. That matters, and we have to keep them on purpose and keep them pointing in the right direction, keep that boat turning in the right direction, if you will, to make sure that we keep that as a mantra in their minds that helps them continue to press on their job regardless of what their role is. So we've got to be sure and connect them. So how do we do that? How do we connect our people with the purpose, with the passion, with the mission, with the why we talked about? Just a couple practical things I want to throw at you real fast. First of all, you've got to make everything about the mission. You got to talk it, you got to walk it, you got to speak it when you're writing, when you're sending emails, when you're having one-on-one conversations. Everything you do in the organization or in your area of influence, whatever that may be, you're always bringing it back to the mission. Patrick Lencioni is one of my favorite leadership authors. He's a great author. He's got several books, and in one of the books, he talks about how the CEO needs to be the CRO, the Chief Reminding Officer. And what he's talking about is we always have to remind our people of what matters, the mission, the values, what matters in our organization. And I have learned that is so true, and we can never stop understanding the importance of that role. I have got to constantly be reminding our people of their value, of what matters, of our purpose, of our values, and all those other aspects of the organization that are important. So look at yourself, whatever your role is as a leader of the CRO, the Chief Reminding Officer. You're always reminding. So use every opportunity you can to make sure that you connect your people with purpose by making everything about the mission. You've got to constantly do that. The second way that we drive that connection to connect our people with a purpose is we, as the leaders, we have to emulate it. We have to show them what that looks like. I'm going to use one of our speakers today as a perfect example this afternoon. Chief Billy Grogan, who's sitting back there. He doesn't even know this. I was going to mention him. But when I first became a chief in Powder Springs, he's one of the first guys I called. And I had lunch with him, and I picked his brain because I looked at Billy, who's much, much older and wiser. I'm just kidding about that part. He's older and wiser, but he'd been doing this a while. But why I picked him is I'd observed him enough to know that he was an innovative leader who cared about his people. He cared about his people, and that's why I was like, that's what I want to do. And I can promise you at Dunwoody, I don't know their mission statement, I don't know what their values are, but I know Billy well enough to know that he shows what matters and how he leads that department. They can look at the mission, they can look at the values and whatever else that he espouses, and they can watch him and go, that's how you do it. Every one of us in here, if I brought an officer into your organization or an employee in your organization, I should be able to point to you as a leader and go, you watch that person. You watch Paul at West Ridge Church. You watch him, watch how he handles himself, watch how he deals with people, watch what he does, how he reacts to the good things, how he deals with stress and the bad times. You watch that and you do that, and you will see the purpose in your role. You will see the purpose and you'll see what matters. We have to emulate that for them. I can't just talk mission and speak it and show it and talk about how important it is without emulating it in how I deal with my role day to day, especially in how I treat my people and the people that we connect with in our community day in and day out. So we've got to show them what it looks like, all right? So we connect by not only showing them what it looks like, but also when people do achieve the purpose, when they meet the mission that we've set, you got to make a big deal about it. You got to always look for opportunities to reward it. We're very good about, all the typical public safety, law enforcement awards, life-saving awards, exceptional duty. You've been here 20 years, here's a certificate to check, whatever, and that's all great. It's important. But we also need to make sure that we are intentional in recognizing when people actually meet the mission. When they achieve that, we need to make a big deal about that. We need to recognize that. We have in our department, we have what's called a Chief's coin. It's my coin, it's a challenge coin. And by the way, our mission is to enhance the quality of life of those that live, work, and play in Alpharetta. So hopefully, if you went to Alpharetta today and you found a 911 operator or a firefighter or a police officer, and you said, why do you exist? What's your purpose? What's your mission? Hopefully they would say at least quality of life, at least those 3 words. So everything we talk about is quality of life. And on that coin, it says quality of life is job 1. And when I have an officer, firefighter, whoever, 911 operator, admin staff, when they clearly display that purpose that we talk about, so important, that mission, and they enhance the quality of life, we make a big deal about it. And I give them a Chief's coin, and you see it on our social media, you see it on my Twitter, and we celebrate that. Like we celebrate the other stuff, we've got to celebrate the opportunities that we have when they meet the mission and achieve that purpose. And by the way, guess what that's doing? You're valuing your employee, you're making them feel valued, and you're still doing what? Reinstating the mission. You're putting it out in front of your people again. That first thing we talked about always doing that. A couple other things real quick. You can also, we try to debrief a lot, and that's, again, kind of a public safety thing I know, and we try to encourage our shifts. Each week, debrief some calls. I don't care if they're big calls, small calls, whatever. What did we do well? What can we do better? What are some things we would do differently next time? That's always a beneficial a part of what we need to be doing, and it helps us try to get better, right? Well, part of that, and we have this little form we give them to use as kind of a guide, part of that is, did we meet the mission? And how so? How did we meet the mission? How did we enhance somebody's quality of life by doing that? So use that part of as a debrief, or anytime you analyze what you've done, when you go back and look, and we've done, whether it's a whole year in review, or again, call by call, whatever that may be, make sure, again, you're incorporating the mission, the purpose, the why into that to see if we're meeting that mission and that purpose. And if not, how can we do it better next time? And then finally, man, just slap that mission everywhere you can put it. I mean, visually, as in, we have it on mugs and cups and put it on shirts, whatever, but a visual reminder. We had the opportunity to send 4 of our command staff, Trent, who's speaking later today, Major Lindgren was one of them, to Southwest Airlines a couple of years ago. Every year they have a day where you can go to Southwest Airlines, go to their headquarters in Texas, and you can meet with their staff, kind of get a vision for what they're doing. If you're not familiar, they're very customer service oriented, and they are very big on mission and values. And we knew that, we came across that, so I sent the 4 out there to go check it out. And they would tell you, Trent would tell you, when you get there, you walk in the door, you immediately know what matters at Southwest Airlines. You know what their mission is, you know what their values are, you see it everywhere. You hear their employees talking about it. And it's obviously a part of their DNA, it's a part of their culture, it's a part of what they do. And that's the goal, and that's why they came back with all these great ideas that we're working toward and making sure that we keep that out in front of our employees as much as possible. So once you create it and you establish it, then again, it's a daily job for the rest of your career and whatever role you're in as a leader to connect that mission, that purpose, that why with your people. So I started with a good sports analogy. I'm going to finish with one. All right. 1992, the Olympics, was the introduction of the Dream Team. Now, before that, America, when we would compete in the Olympics, we did not use professional athletes. All the other countries did, but we did not until 1992. We said, enough of that, we're going to bring in the pros. And guess what? They brought in the Dream Team. And if you remember, that was Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley and Karl Malone. I mean, they were a stacked team. And listen, when you have truly our best players in the country playing, nobody should touch us. We have the best talent in the world when it comes to basketball. And it showed. They won by an average of 44 points a game and easily won the gold medal. So since then, we've had that allowance of allowing pros to play. But the problem was, all of a sudden, that started to change, and we got somewhat mediocre, if you will. In one of the, I think it was the FIFA competition, whatever that is, an international competition, they went 6-3. In 2004, they won the bronze, which that should never happen. And so all of a sudden, it became apparent they were playing without passion and without, guess what, purpose. They lost their way. So they bring in Coach Krzyzewski from Duke. Now, I consider him probably the second best basketball coach of all time. You got to put John Wooden number 1 on that. But they brought him in with the idea that we've got to create purpose and meaning. Now, he's an old military guy, played for the Army. I will read a quote. This is, by the way, the story. It's from another great book called Great Teams. And the quote in the book is regarding why they chose Coach K. Using the military connection, Coach K repeatedly sought out ways for Team USA to understand its greater purpose. We want to bring him in to help them play for something greater than themselves, a greater purpose, to associate their role with something meaningful. Now, we all know what this is. If you've been there, you know what this is. Arlington Cemetery. It's one of those places, if you go, you can't even describe it. You can't describe the experience. You can't put it into words. It's just an awe-inspiring place. He took Team USA to Arlington Cemetery, went specifically to Section 60, which is a location in the cemetery that has more recent soldiers that were laid to rest in the last 20 or 30 years or so. And the day they went, as you read the story in the book, they came across a soldier who had knelt down by one of the soldiers that lost his life. It was a comrade of his, somebody he had served with, and he had given the ultimate sacrifice. So that soldier stands back up. He starts talking to the players. They have a long conversation. And when that soldier walked away, using another quote from Coach K, he said, "That's why we came here, to feel our country." You see what that is? That is a leader taking a group of people and attaching their role to something more meaningful than just a game or just something on a court, something that's beyond themselves, something that's bigger than them. And basically the message he sent to them throughout his career as a coach for USA was, you are playing for that USA that is on your jersey. You're not just playing for yourselves. You're not just playing to win games. You're not just playing to get a gold medal around your neck. You are playing for a country that is free, and we have the ability to even play like we do because of what you see there. He took a purpose, and he created that purpose for his people. And guess what happened in the next Olympics? They won by an average of like 38 points a game and easily won the gold medal. Let me finish with this. If you hear nothing else I say, hear this. And if you are a note taker, write this question down. I want to give you the question to ask yourself every day you go to work. Every day you go to work, ask yourself this question as a leader. How can I add value to my people? How can I add value to my people? You allow your leadership style, whatever it is, to be driven by that. You will create a healthy culture, and you cannot go wrong in the long run. And let me tell you this, one of the greatest ways that you can add value to your people is by creating purpose for them, by giving them purpose in what they do. Thank you very much.